Hello and welcome back to Generation Red, a channel where we like to focus on just how stupid woke culture has become. And while woke culture is definitely a problem, sometimes the response to this movement can be equal in its idiocy. So for today's video, I'd like to take the pressure off of mainstream media for today and actually focus on something that Donald J. Trump said in response to the forest fires going on in California, Oregon, and Washington state. And first of all, if any of you live in any of those states, I sincerely hope that you're doing all right. I know some rain just passed through Washington state, so that's pretty good. It should have cleared up some of the weather. But like I said, before we get on to the video, it is important to note that what he said could be taken out of context, but I don't necessarily believe that's the case, considering what he says seems to be pretty cut and dry to me. In a public meeting with other officials, one of the panelists asked Mr. Trump to consider the effect that climate change has had on the forest fires and urges him to be more responsive in his actions to address this issue. And this is how he responds to that.
So Wade and Tom, please.
Yeah, well, from our perspective, there is amazing partnership on the ground, and there needs to be. As the governor said, we've had temperatures explode this summer. You may have learned that we broke a world record in the Death Valley, 130 degrees. But even in greater LA, 120 plus degrees. And we're seeing this warming trend make our summers warmer, but also our winters warmer as well. So I think one area of mutual agreement and priority is vegetation management. But I think we want to work with you to really recognize the changing climate and what it means to our forests and actually work together with that science. That science is going to be key. Because if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually.
So, I don't really know how copyright works, but I believe I'm in the clear as long as I mention the organization that filmed this, CNBC, and commentate on it as well to make it transformative in nature, which is what I absolutely intend on doing. Let me first start off by saying that I don't think Trump is the worst human being in the world. However, it's hard to consistently ignore the blatantly false things he says at times. I don't really know what he means by, quote, "the science is wrong." Look, it's true that certain scientific theories have been falsified over time, although what a lot of people don't understand is that's part of the scientific process. That's what makes the current theories stronger, the fact that they're always being challenged. Therefore, out of all the things in the world, science is the most trustworthy in my humble opinion. And one of the strongest scientific theories at this moment in time is this idea of climate change. As you can see here in this graph, the annual temperature average has been increasing since 1850, aka when the first industrial revolution began, because that's when we really started to pollute the environment on a mass scale. And as you can also see, it's increasing exponentially. Now, when President Trump says that it'll get cooler, that wasn't necessarily an inaccurate statement, because in the wintertime, the temperature will get cooler. However, the mistake he made was lacking the comprehensive distinction between weather and climate. Weather is current temperature, while climate is measured in temperature over time. So he's absolutely right. Winters are typically colder than summers, but that's talking about weather. If we were to go back 30 years ago, and compare the weather at that time versus the weather 30 years today, we would see that it's a completely different climate. And that's what scientists are worried about, not the fact that it's not going to be cold in the wintertime, because it is going to be colder. There are multiple explanations to why the climate is increasing over time. It is true that the Earth goes through cycles of ice ages and periods of extreme heat, and it could be possible that we are seeing the beginning of a heat cycle coming on. I believe there have been some studies on that, although I'm a little iffy on it. However, to rule out human error when it's apparent that carbon emissions can affect climate over time is a completely ignorant thing to do. Although, I would like to point out that it isn't really the US that's doing all the polluting in the world. China takes the cake when it comes to overall pollution. With that being said, though, it is important to note that the US has the highest carbon footprint per capita out of any country in the world. And, as we've seen in the past, when the US focuses on something, the world typically follows suit. So, if we focus on clean energy being a priority and reducing our carbon footprint, which is a lot easier said than done, Greta Thunberg, we could hopefully inspire other countries to do so. Look, I'm a conservative, and I know that I'm in the minority on this one, and I honestly feel like the reason for this is because climate change, and science in general, to be perfectly honest, has become politicized over the years. Why, I have no idea. But that makes conservatives feel like they have to reject certain theories if they don't fit their party view, which is completely absurd. Science should be all about observation, forming theories out of hypotheses, and suggesting possible solutions to possible problems. That's how science should be, not a political crap fest. Thank you very much for watching Generation Red. Please remember to like and subscribe for more weekly content. Alright, see you next time.